Hi everyone, I hope you had a great Christmas and a very happy new year. Welcome to 2022. I just wanted to share with you some of the books that I read over the Christmas period. I didn't get that much reading done. I worked straight through Christmas. The industry that I work in is always busy at this time of the year, but these are just two of the books that I did finish and I'd like to share with you. There should be no surprises that it is medieval history, but that's what I like. And the first book that I read is The White Ship by Charles Spencer. So it's called The White Ship: Conquest, Anarchy, and the Wrecking of Henry I's Dream. So I think this is a very apt title. It could be viewed metaphorically, the White Ship, as well as literally. So Henry I was the son of William the Conqueror, and Henry I was the younger son of William the Conqueror. So he really had no business aspiring to become the King of England, but through a series of events that could be viewed as unfortunate or fortunate, depending on the perspective that you're looking at it, he manages to claim the throne of England after his brother dies in very odd circumstances. So Henry I, as I mentioned, was a younger son. He didn't have any landed inheritance from his father, whereas his older brothers became king of England and Duke of Normandy. However, he didn't have a very good relationship with his brothers. There was a lot of power struggle, and conflict between the brothers. And I think when he claimed the throne of England, that really had an impact on his desires to build a dynasty. The unfortunate thing was that while Henry I had a lot of illegitimate children, he only had one son legitimately, who was his sole heir. So William Ethling and his father were traveling back from Normandy to England, and unfortunately, what's known as the White Ship disaster, William Ethling and his, a lot of other English nobles, or Norman nobles, perished when it sunk off the coast. So that really dashed Henry I's dreams of building a dynastic empire. And the book is really about his struggles before claiming the throne and also after this event, the White Ship disaster, in really trying to, his struggle for having heirs, and ultimately appointing Matilda, his daughter, as his heir, and what the subsequent strife and civil war that England goes through once he passes away. And I think while this is a very slim volume, as a narrative history, I mean, there wasn't a deep analysis here. It was mainly a description of events. I didn't mind that. I think it was a very enjoyable read, and it's perfect for anyone who isn't familiar with this time period or these events, because it is very educational. So that was the first book that I read. And then the second one that I read is this, Ian Mortimer, 1450, Henry V's Year of Glory. And I'd just like to begin by saying that I really enjoy Ian Mortimer's work. I think he's probably one of my favorite medieval historians. So he does a lot of biographies on well-known English figures in the medieval period. So obviously Henry V, his father Henry IV, Roger Mortimer, Edward III, and it's just worth noting that in these collection of biographies, Ian Mortimer has a real talent for getting into the medieval mind and allowing us as the reader to sort of empathize and connect with them. And in doing this, he has another agenda as well. His other agenda is really challenging well-known opinions about these individuals. So for instance, in his biography of Roger Mortimer, while Roger Mortimer he has a really bad rap. So he led a revolution with Isabella against a coup against Edward II, and pretty much claimed power when that happened for 3 years. 3 years he was the de facto ruler of England for that time period until Edward III claimed his his dominance and authority. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he pretty much in that biography attempts to allow us as the reader understand things from Roger's perspective, and not necessarily just view him as a a one-dimensional evil individual who just usurped the throne to claim power for himself. And the reason I mention that is because he, Ian Mortimer, attempts to do something similar in this book with Henry V. Henry V is viewed very positively in the English mind, and that's because of his success at the Battle of Agincourt in the Hundred Years' War. It's a very famous battle in which Henry V was able to claim his right to the French throne, in addition, combining the crowns of England and France. However, Ian Mortimer really doesn't hide the fact. He explicitly states in this book that he doesn't necessarily like Henry V. And while I do think I think it's great that he's explicit about his bias, but his agenda in this book is to examine on a day-by-day basis. It's literally, a list of every calendar day in 1415 of the actions that Henry V took through examining documents and description of events. In order to examine what was going through Henry V's mind, in order to reveal bits about his personality and conscientiousness. So he pretty much reduces Henry V to an overly pious, even overly pious for the medieval era, ambitious, very, has a lot of pride. And I think in reducing him to that, I don't think perhaps it is a bit one-sided, but I do appreciate Ian Mortimer's attempt at challenging these views that he should be celebrated. There's a lot that Henry V did that was, that we can't brush away with historical relativism. A lot of people died in his pursuit for the French throne. There were things that he did which would be viewed as unchristian, and he was a very pious individual, such as ordering all of the survivors that weren't of noble birth at the Battle of Agincourt to be killed. So he looks at, really these events and tries to get into Henry V's mind to allow us to appreciate him for more than just this one-dimensional heroic figure in English history. So while I think it's great that he's explicitly biased, he explicitly states his bias towards his opinions about Henry V. Perhaps I think maybe it is a bit one-sided in that regard, but I still thought this was a great book. I really did enjoy it. I finished it in 3 days, and that was quite a feat for me because I think you all know how slow I am of a reader this is quite a large book. So yeah. I do have some books coming in the mail, which I'm really excited for. And they're not actually about medieval history. They're more about what I'm passionate about. So archaeology and anthropology. So I can't wait to read them and share them with y'all. And the only other book that I need to mention, well, I don't need to do anything, but that I want to mention is for book club, I'm reading Reflections of a Digger. So this is about Foilek Craney, who was the director of the University of Pennsylvania's archaeology department, I think. I should be a bit more familiar with him because that is the predecessor to my own department at Mercyhurst College when I went there. The department was moved up to Mercyhurst. So I feel like from a student and heritage perspective, I should know more about him, but I guess I'll be reading more about it here. So yeah, that's all I wanted to mention, and that's all I have to mention in terms of the books that I've read over the past couple of weeks. But it's great to be back on, and I hope to be back on again to show you what's coming in the mail. So until next time, see y'all later. Bye.